Oops, sorry, wrong song. That's a bit more like it. Halo 3 ODST is tonally quite different from the previous games, with it being much more focused on a tight personal narrative over being a 7-foot super soldier saving the galaxy. However, it does still offer the same challenge as the other games, an achievement for beating the game on the hardest difficulty with all the skulls on. Now, skulls are difficulty modifiers that make enemies stronger, more aggressive, whilst also making me lose the ability to regain health naturally or see any information on my screen. There are other modifiers, but honestly they're the main ones. Halo 3 ODST starts with a text scroll explaining what happens, which I tried to skip, which then caused my game to crash. After that not ideal start, the rookie gets rudely awakened from his nap and starts dropping into hell. Wait a minute, it's got a girlfriend. This is the most unrelatable character in the franchise. All of the pods get scattered across New Mombasa and we have to piece together what is happening. There are optional open world missions that don't factor into unlocking the achievement, and I chose not to do them because from a gameplay perspective I don't think they really add any extra challenge. We start off as Buck, who is determined to find Bear, his sort of girlfriend, sort of not, the war kind of gets in the way of all that. On top of this weird platform thing, I take out the oncoming grunts whilst they retreat, and they also throw like 100-mile-an-hour fastball grenades at me. These guys do not mess around, you are never safe during LASO. I scavenge a plasma pistol, which will be my best friend throughout this run since it completely strips brute shields, which makes them so much easier to deal with. At this point, I wanted to refill my pistol ammo, and I remember there being more ammo on the starting platform, but I don't actually know how to get up there. I take too long trying to work it out, and whilst looking for the way up, I inadvertently trap myself and get the first of many deaths in the playthrough. I save and quit, but I end up at the start of the mission anyway, and this honestly just served as a reminder as to how unforgiving LASO is, and how even the slightest mistake can just lead to everything going wrong. We make it past though, and we meet up with some Marines who are sort of trying to survive, and I think they're pinned down to be honest, although they don't seem that concerned. The next fight can be approached head on or with a height advantage, which is honestly quite nice for easily taking out the shields of the brutes. However, I didn't take into account that they can still blow me up through the floor and just aggressively rush me. I survive though, and I pick off these grunts from a distance. The best thing you can do on this difficulty honestly is just take out as many enemies from as far away as possible. And this continues on to the next section where we're introduced to the jackals for the first time, and by god these guys cause me problems. One grunt survived, and he just kept launching grenades from the back from behind cover, and the jackals kept dodging any attempts of breaking the shields with the plasma pistol, so I was just stuck. I do eventually make it through thanks to the help of the assault rifle, and I get to the big open section of this mission. There are a lot of enemies in this square, and there's quite a lot of jackal snipers, which luckily I have a beam rifle to help take out, but I also absolutely whiff most of the shots. There are quite a lot of brutes and jackals, and I have no plasma pistol, so I need to focus on killing a grunt, and luckily I kill one whilst it throws a grenade, which launches that lovely green little gun to me. This allows me to deal with most of the brutes before I run into quite a significant hunter problem. Whilst searching the area, I get trapped in this tiny room with a hunter, and I initially cower, but I pick up the shotgun and I start dancing with the big fella. The shotgun doesn't have much ammo though, so I have to resort to beating him down before luring the other hunter into the same room and doing the exact same thing to him. If these guys attacked me together, I actually think I'd have been done for, but they clearly don't have that chemistry. The enemies left outside sort of end up in the middle of the square, meaning that I can take out the grunt on the turret and run to the final section quite safely. I get to Dare's drop pod and clearly don't understand how to activate the final cutscene of this mission. Honestly, this mission wasn't too hard, but it definitely caused me some issues whilst I adjusted to the skull's effects, and the next mission is so much easier in comparison. The next mission is Uplift Reserve, where we play as Dutch. I have a Spartan laser, and truly I am not afraid to use it, but I only really use it to destroy some wraiths, because this is a vehicle mission, and you do not fight in vehicle missions, you drive past everything in classic Halo fashion. Whether it's in a warthog or a ghost, truly I'm just aiming to get this done as quickly as possible to get onto the next mission. The ghost easily gets me through to the next area where I need to hop out to destroy more wraiths. Luckily there's this giant big central structure so I can do it really safely, and there's more laser ammo inside in case I absolutely whiff, which is a real possibility to be honest. As soon as they are dealt with, I hop back in my trusty little ghost and just continue zooming past everything towards the end of the mission. I start parkouring up the wall with the ghost, which is fairly comfortable doing, but I end up messing this up, flipping the ghost, absolutely panicking, pausing the game, unpausing the game, and then getting blown to pieces. After this, it almost happens again, but I actually survive this time, and then I just zoomed straight to the end of the mission. In the grand scheme of things, it was a quick, straightforward mission, and we do love that, but the next one was neither quick or straightforward. Next up is Kizingo Boulevard, where Mickey goes on a supposedly short tank rampage. However, I had so many issues on this mission that it turned from the jolly day out it's supposed to be to a straight up nightmare. The tank just does no damage, and everything just survives multiple shots, and after a wraith shot absolutely claps me from afar, I chose to reset so I could have full health. Just to show how little damage this tank actually does, this is essentially just 20 seconds straight of me shooting a wraith safely from distance, and just how long it takes to actually explode. And honestly, I should have paid more attention to this, because I have a similar issue at the end of the mission where I just spend an hour in hell. But we will get to that when the time comes, and I'm already a bit scared thinking about it. I decide the tank is completely useless for the time being, so I jack this ghost, but the brute just has other ideas and sticks me. The second time around though, I do take the ghost and speed my way through all these sections until I get to a certain point, as this despawns essentially every enemy I've just driven past. This lets me go back to the tank for the next section where I can get harassed by banshees because I literally cannot aim my gun in the right direction. Like, I don't know what I was doing. I reset again, and for some reason when I load back in, the banshees just aren't there anymore. And I do find out later that they're stuck in the back of this area, but for the time being I was just slowly peeking out, absolutely terrified. I do clear out the area though and start fighting the next wave of enemies. I destroy the Phantom, which honestly is still so incredibly satisfying in the big 2026. And this giant pole also gets the business before the Wraith goes down too. More reinforcements arrive and I don't destroy the Phantom fast enough, so I have to deal with these ghosts as well as another Wraith. These do quite a bit of damage to me, but I do overcome them, and I see the banshees that should have been at the start stuck on this building. And after I shoot them, they just sort of fly off into the void to never be seen again. But I start the real trick of this mission here. I use the tank to climb over these anti-vehicle barriers and clear out the first wave of enemies before going back for the perfectly healthy second tank that I'll be pushing over the vehicle barrier to have in the final holdout section. This part was honestly hell. I actually think the tank made it more difficult. So I rushed straight for the safe corner where enemies can only come from one direction and the Wraith can't see me. But I had so many issues with aiming the tank that I just kept missing shots, or worse, like actively damaging myself with the shots. And this led to quite a fair few deaths because I just couldn't deal with the Wraith. I eventually find a spot where I can peek out to destroy the Wraith where it can't see me, and I end this godforsaken mission. Honestly, this final part took me well over an hour, and it was so much harder than I ever thought it would be. ONI Alpha Site is next up, and after staring at the floor to work out what weapon I actually have started with here, I look to the Marines to see if they have a pistol, because, I mean, a precision weapon is just necessary. I blow the bridge up and I retreat back towards the site, but the Covenant are dropping off troops just everywhere. I use the Spartan laser to take out the hunters quickly. I was trying to give the laser to Mickey since he'll have unlimited ammo with it, but it's just been whacked about the place by this rampaging brute who I just want to melee for health. And after finally dealing with him, I hand over the laser to Mickey and start taking out the Wraiths with a fresh laser, whilst my good pal Mickey just very kindly distracts the Covenant. I just have to hold out until I can retreat inside. I actually don't think I need to kill any enemies. Hiding behind this block allows Mickey to get absolutely violated whilst I sneakily melee a few brutes. And this buys enough time for the door to open up to the next area where honestly I spent the majority of my time in this mission. There's a big holdout section and I was hoping that Mickey would kill most of the enemies with his laser, but he gets exploded into one of the lift shafts and never respawns. And I think it's because that's the shaft that's used to progress the mission later, but it just leaves me by myself. There are lots of plasma pistols around, so I try and single out enemies and just try and take everything nice and slow. I, however, do not account for the fact that the brutes could hide in corners and stick me without my knowledge, which just caused me to die. But there isn't really much to say in this section. I just take a really long time taking out a few enemies, like very slowly, and eventually reinforcements come from outside, which I again just noob combo down very slowly and very safely. It just required a lot of meticulous gameplay this section. I lured the final brute to his demise, and Mickey decides to actually turn up in the lift so we can progress the mission. The lift right up is just full of drones that actually don't really seem to care about me in the slightest, but when I get to the top, there are a bunch of enemies waiting for me, and I do get absolutely jump scared by a jackal. While I was trying to take out this brute, he just rampages and kills me, which sort of leads me to the idea that I should just let Mickey be at the front of everything. And this does briefly work since he lasers the shields off of brutes, causing them to rampage and then letting me easily take them out while they're distracted. And I see that Mickey's starting to distract the chieftain. I think this is the perfect moment to strike, but the chieftain clearly had other ideas. After this catastrophe though, I do manage to finish the mission. This last brute gets stuck and is just helpless, so I take him out and I get myself to the point where the next two missions are very quick, with the first of them being NMPD HQ, which is a mouthful to say and it has taken me a few attempts. This is supposed to be the sniper mission, which is sort of in a very enclosed space, which is actually quite interesting from a gameplay perspective, but let me tell you, my sniper rifle never saw the light of day. Yeah, this is a classic run past everything mission up until the final holdout section, which I also have a plan for. So I trade Buck's sniper rifle for a laser, so I just have a squad of unkillable allies who will just deal damage for fun. I then hide in the back of the area where like nothing sees me, so they can just do all the work, because I think one of them already has a laser, one has a rocket launcher, and they tend to go on the rocket pods as well. So this just ends the mission for me comfortably, and just removes any stress that the last mission may have caused me. Next up is Kikowani Station, and we're Buck again, back in his shoes. This is an aircraft level, but we actually start off on foot with the aim of taking a conveniently parked Phantom and Banshee to get us to safety. I have to make sure that I pick up a plasma pistol on the way, just in the off chance I might need it, but to be honest, there's not much fighting in this mission. Like, it's another mission where you can just absolutely zoom past everything as soon as you get into the Banshee. After successfully yoinking the Banshee, I wait for my allies to steal the Phantom and fly it towards the door so I can actually set off and get on with the mission. As soon as I see my opportunity, I just hit that boost straight into the next area, dodging as much damage as possible in like the weird little narrow corridor things, and I make it to the next wide open area where I'm forced out of the Banshee to open the next door, but I can just hop straight back in, do a little loop around, and then fly through, and then I can hide on top of the Phantom to avoid any damage in this next bit. I actually have to partake in some combat without the Banshee, which honestly is a little rude. So this hallway is full of grunts, jackals, brutes, some of which are invisible. There's a chieftain, there's an engineer who I'm obviously not going to kill because I'm not a monster. And my approach here was just to sort of stay back and take out anything that goes on the plasma turret, or just any jackals who don't know I exist. And this does sort of work, but the enemies do work out that they can just flank me, which does panic me a bit, but I do eventually deal with these big brain fellas. The chieftain gets dealt with, and I open the door, run back to my Banshee, and then come face to face with the scarab that's just stood on a tiny platform. This Scarab though is not getting a fair fight. I'm going to get out of the Banshee, open the door, dodge the Scarab's attacks, and then just hop in the fresh Banshee that's on the other side of the door. This lets me get through this section with literally no issue, since you don't need to destroy the Scarab to progress. You can just hop in the Banshee, destroy the Engineer Nest, and that's the end of the mission. We are getting closer to the, more terrible missions in this campaign though, which is a bit of a concern. Next up is Data Hive, and well, to be honest, I had a bit of an upsie here. So I forgot to record a good portion of this mission, so we're in theatre mode, which I had to learn the controls for. This mission has a lot of repeated segments and encounters as well, so like I'm going to be speeding through it a bit, but I won't dodge this brute grenading himself, because that's just some fantastic content. We meet up with this policeman who is honestly like the Terminator. Like, he has a shotgun and a dream, he just sprints at enemies head first. I do sort of just abandon him though to fend off the drones, but he actually does the same approach as me and runs off from the drones too. We eventually get to these invisible brutes who are literally just no match for this guy and themselves, to be honest. They do grenade themselves a fair bit. And this leads to another room of drones where I actually have a lot of issues with, because honestly the drones in this game are so hard to kill. I don't know if I'm just terrible or what, but my buddy just ran off from them, so I'm just left trying to headshot these things while they just fly from all angles shooting me. I actually see where my buddy ran off to. He just noped away from the drones and just onto the next section, which honestly, I respect. There's more of the same corridor fights here where I just noob combo brutes and take them out, no real issues. But this does eventually lead to the sad, tragic loss of my new friend, because he stays back to fight the drones, and when I say fight, I mean he just ceases to exist when I can't see him, because I am the main character here. And this leads to the part where I struggled the most in this mission. This brute just doesn't care about my grieving and just melees me into next year. And the second time around, I think I'm making really good progress, but this turret chieftain rushes me at the first opportunity and he just doesn't play by the rules. He does whatever he feels like. Like, I very clearly feel like I hit him in the back there, but, it's his game, I suppose. And second time around though, I do get the chieftain to enrage, which I actually don't know how I did, but it made this segment doable, since if he doesn't enrage, he just mows me down repeatedly. We find a flamethrower, which is honestly unbelievably strong. Like, this thing just cuts through enemies with ease. And I was definitely helped by the bubble shield thrown by the brute, since I can load everything into the shield and just cook them. And all of this eventually leads to meeting Dare, who is completely disappointed that I'm not Buck, but we move on regardless. She throws grenades for fun, and she's just another Terminator teammate, which I love. With the added benefit of that she's invulnerable and she's not going to abandon me like the last one. She does get me killed though by this incredibly timed plasma grenade. I have PTSD from the last drone encounter, so I perform a big jump with these explosive barrels to get to the top of this segment and just skip all of the spawns, which leads very nicely to the segment at the end of the mission with the chieftain trying to break into the engineer room. So I try and take them out from up top, but I realise I'm just completely wasting my time, like it just doesn't work. So I jump down and just mop the floor with them, and it's finally time to save Virgil and escape this godforsaken place. These final sections honestly aren't too bad. We have Buck with us now, who is much like Dare in the fact that he is a ruthless killing machine who throws grenades like his life depends on it, and we just need to keep fighting through these hordes of enemies, and there's nothing really special here. We get to some sleeping drones who I want to take out quietly, but they don't really seem to want to play along with this idea. But we eventually clear out all the enemies and we make it to the final mission. The dreaded mission, to be honest, Coastal Highway, which I have heard so much about the difficulty of this mission. I'm gonna be entirely honest here, I thought this mission was harder than most of the missions in this campaign, but honestly it's nowhere near as bad as it was made out to be. So I start off by picking up rockets and just sprinting past all the enemies, throwing the odd grenade to distract them just so I can get to the main section of this mission as quickly as possible. The core of this mission is driving the Warg up a highway, protecting Dare and Virgil in the Ollie font, which can be destroyed if not adequately protected. After each bit of road is cleared, you get to like this big door which has a bunch of health packs inside and leads to the next section. So the first bit's an absolute breeze, but every section it gets progressively more difficult. The second section has jackals and brutes and it will actually take me out by jacking me and then brute shotting me into oblivion. I have made sure to pick up a fuel rod for Buck because, well, the chain gun on the Warthog does no damage to vehicles and I need him to do most of the work here, to be honest, so I'm just sort of backing on him doing everything for me. I get another death by fuel rod cannons before I retreat to let Buck deal with all the drones from the next section himself. And after making it through, we have another like fairly straightforward bit. I just need to run down enemies as soon as they jump off the Phantom and Virgil will be completely safe. So this next section is the first with vehicles in it, which to be honest are not ideal in the slightest. So I hide behind the Oliphant until I can get to the end of the segment to try and park Buck in such a way that he'll just go crazy on all the ghosts. Buck, however, doesn't really play along with this. He yearns to be in the gunner seat, which isn't really helpful to anybody, actually. But after a long time too, we actually make it through to the Goss Hog, which in theory is a lot better than the Chain Gun Hog. We're getting our new whip and we're introduced to the Banshees, which I actually have a plan for. So I hop out and plasma pistol the first one so it falls and dies and we have one less thing to deal with. And then I just revert back to what I did in the last section where I just park Buck at the end and just, you know, hope that he kills everything. But sadly, first time around, I just get booped, which is quite an unfortunate death, all things considered, but at least it's funny. This is only a minor setback though, and the second time around Buck nicely deals with everything, and we get to the first Wraith section, which honestly I don't know what I'm doing here, so I just watch it shoot me, and I don't know why. I once again use the exact same plan, except this time a ghost sneakily gets back there, and despite my best efforts it blows up the Oliphant. This isn't really an issue though for the second time around. Buck nicely clears out literally everything so we can get back into the tank. Now, you may remember, I hate the tank. I absolutely drive by this anti-air earth before getting harassed by Banshees, which it takes me so long to take them out. Like, you don't understand how bad I am at aiming this thing at them. But I do eventually clear out this bit, and I wait patiently for these Phantoms, since if you blow them up at the right time, you don't have to deal with any of the ghosts. Granted, the first time around, I absolutely balls this up. But I get it done eventually with 2 ghosts surviving, but I, you know, take them out with like 5 tank shots since they're just immune to tank damage for some bizarre reason. These final sections are significantly easier, so I blast a bunch of infantry who honestly are just no match for me before I watch Virgil absolutely tank a Scarab beam to the face, and I'm here questioning if he actually needs us to protect him, because clearly he's built different. This leads to the final holdout, which I do not plan to actually take part in. I park the tank halfway up the ramp so I can hop in from the other side and then get out there with the fuel rod cannon so both Hare and Buck are as dangerous to the Covenant as possible. I hop back into the tank thinking that I'm invulnerable and I immediately get blown to pieces by a brute. And after that embarrassing setback, I cleanly just sit back and take out anything I see while my team goes to work on anything I can't see. And to be honest, that's just sort of the end of this. This leads to the end of the mission and the campaign as a whole. I think of the games I've played so far, this is definitely the easiest, but it still had a fair bit of challenge, mainly with the vehicle segments. And to be honest, the game was just quite short. Next time around though, we will be remembering Reach, another one I've heard quite a lot of mixed things about. And hey, is that Monkey?